Medic Life episode 18, Christmas in the Mountains, is dedicated to a Wilderness and EMS and an introduction to our new co-host. This week, the GT Medic is spending time with his family because, yes, it is Christmas. So, welcome from Roan Mountain State Park here in Roan Mountain, Tennessee. This is Medic Life, a weekly video podcast for EMS professionals, bringing you real-world knowledge about today's EMS with your host, John Newton. Good evening, lifers. It's time for your weekly dose of Medic Life, where we delve into everyday topics in EMS. I'm your host, John Newton, and this week we have a special episode dedicated to Christmas in the Mountains. If this is your first time watching or listening, welcome to the program, and thanks for coming. Come back often and feel free to subscribe to us on YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, or even Spreaker. And you can also follow me on Twitter at jnewton_DCME. And all these links are also going to be down here in the bottom in the description. And yes, you can like and subscribe down there at the bottom. So thanks for following, guys, and you can also find us on our website, mediclifetv.com. So let's get started with our show this week. As you can see, if you look over my back here, yeah, the sun has kind of gone down on us, having a little technical difficulties, doing this a little different this week, and you can kind of see, and I will be looking back and forth, looking down, trying out some new audio stuff. So shout out to those guys at Audacity, really love those guys, so helping them trying to get some sound effects working a little bit better for you guys so we can get some better sound and video quality. But you can see the mountains there over my shoulder. So this week, guys, we are coming to you live from Roan Mountain State Park here in Roan Mountain, Tennessee. And as a effort to try to make sure that we do have the best audio and video quality for you guys, yes, the sun did go down on us, so I hate you guys are missing some of this view, but it is an excellent view there for you guys to see. And I have been out and about taking pictures, so I might just sort of kind of stick those in for you guys to see. So the first thing we're going to talk about, and I think this is an important topic, oftentimes we don't think about the safety factors, and for those of you who do Wilderness EMS or do remote EMS, sometimes these are things you think about, but oftentimes this is not something that we think about. And I'm going to show you guys, and it's turned around there, but you can see here this band that I wear. It's called Road ID, and I'm going to put the as always in the description. It's called roadid.com. Now on this band, and there's different ones, and you'll find by going to that website that with Road ID, you get information on the actual band, and on the back of this little silver tab here, you can bend it over and look at the back, and there's actually a code. Most of them either have a website address on the front or a phone number or both, and I did both on mine. Some of you guys know that I do a little bit of hiking, a little running, this, that, and the other, especially if you followed me on Facebook or Twitter or something like that. One of the cool things is for you guys, and the reason I wanted to talk about this is because as EMS professionals, and I've talked to different friends and stuff, and they're like, hey guy, what is that you got on your arm there? John, I see you wearing this bracelet all the time. What's this about? And I always tell them, and they're like, well, what do you see? How does this help EMS? Well, for us, and the reason I'm telling you guys is it's not just for hikers. It's not just for people out doing wilderness stuff. This actually was developed by a college kid who was a runner, and he used it after his dad kept fussing at him about running all the time. He got hit by a car. The guy ended up being okay, but he came up with this thing. He's like, you know, I've got to have some kind of way of ID. Well, now they have this website. So as an EMS professional, you either go to the website that's here, or you call the number, and there's a code on the back, and you use this code, and it doesn't give you social security number, but it gives you date of birth and medical history, which is important for us. So if you're out there on the side of the road and you see a biker or a runner or something, and you look for one of these, and they make them for the wrist, little things that go in shoes. There's all kinds of different gizmos, and you can find them just by going to that website. It's actually not an expensive thing. Wow, I thought I had killed the sound on that. Apologize, guys. So they're not an expensive device. As a matter of fact, a couple of years ago, one of my grandmothers has started getting dementia, stays home a good portion of the day by herself, and one of the things that we said, hey, if something happened, she kind of wandered off, if there was nobody there, there would be a way to for people to identify her and get her information. So if you see those on anybody, look for this information. Now, I always tell you guys that, and we talk about this frequently, but always look for ICE. It's that little thing that's on people's phones that has their information, their private information for those emergency contacts and things like that. So remember those. And I think that's a good way to get started. I kind of had this broken down, and I thought, well, I would start with some tips about things to do if someone, if you came upon somebody. But I think I'm going to just sort of kind of skip down to the bottom of my list as it gets dark here in Roan Mountain, and talk about some of the things that are minimally needed. Now, I know you guys are EMS professionals, and you're like, well, why does this really matter to me? Well, and maybe if you're out day hiking, and I always tell you guys, prepare for the worst at minimum. Day hiking, multi-day trips, whatever. If you're even out and you're forming a search party, make sure that your search party folks, now most of you guys have training if you're doing search and rescue, but maybe you work in a rural EMS area and you have to put together a search party. These are some of the things that they need to make sure that they have on them, whether it's getting close to dark or even if you don't think it's going to be dark, sometimes it sneaks up on us. So the first thing and the most important thing is a headlamp. Now I'm going to look over here in my bag because I believe that I was smart enough to bring one. Now you don't have to have a headlamp, and these things are, I love these. This one is actually a black diamond, and this is not going to be a episode about different pieces of equipment. I like black diamond, it's a good piece of equipment, but you don't have to have a headlamp. Have a dedicated life. Now we know our life, yes, have a dedicated life. Dedicate your life. I think all of you guys have dedicated your life or you wouldn't be in EMS. But have a dedicated light. The light on our cell phone, it's good, but the problem is you can run down your battery. It's not always the best way to go, so have a dedicated light beside your cell phone. Speaking of cell phones, you should always put them in emergency mode or in airplane mode so that it can save your battery. If you're one of those people you know you're going to be out for a couple of days, you might even want to get one of those little portable, just rechargeable packs. Those things are really cheap, and I think you can get them at Walmart. You can order them off of Amazon, things like that for, I don't know, 10 or 15 bucks, and it's not very expensive, and it works really well. The other thing that I would tell you is to make sure that you have a compass and a map, especially if you're going into a region that you don't, or an area that you don't know very well. Spend some time reviewing maps, especially if you're going to go on day hikes, things like that. Look at topography maps. The folks at the National Geographic have some excellent ones out there, and they're the ones that actually make most of the maps for, well, the AT is like less than, I think, 5 miles from here in any direction that you go from either end of the park. So, yeah, you know, always have a map. Know how to read the map, and that's important. And I know you guys out there riding around the street, you're going, okay, well, I know how to read the street map. Yeah, reading a street map is one skill, but it's a whole different skill when you're out in the woods. And we're going to talk about that, about what happens when you get lost. The second thing is always carry more water than you think you're going to need. Oftentimes you go, okay, well, I'm going to be out here for 2 or 3 hours. Well, if it's a nice hot day, it's a little more strenuous effort than you think it's going to be initially. Well, you might drink a little more water, and you should drink a lot of water. You should stay hydrated. And we talk about that when we talk about our environmental emergencies and how we should stay hydrated, hot or cold. It's rainy here, so you guys might hear a little rain. You're hearing some cars go by and things like that. Guys, it's like Christmas. I'm here in Roan Mountain, Tennessee. You guys are supposed to be seeing snow behind me. It's like in the 70s. It's like in the 60s and 70s. It's ridiculous. You guys know that Medic Life Studios is actually in Augusta, Georgia. I think I saw today it was like somewhere around about 78, which is just like phenomenal this close to Christmas or at Christmas. But yeah, always make sure that you have a water source. I had my Nalgene bottle, and I guess I left it in my truck across the parking lot, so that's cool. But some kind of water bottle, always take more than you need, and whether you take a filter straw or some kind of water filtering device, just in case. Filter straws are really cheap. You can find those. I'll try to make sure that I put some in a description here when I post this up, either on YouTube or on the website or something. I'll get you guys some ideas. They're not hard to find. You just type in water filter straw in Google, and you can find them everywhere. And you can find them at Walmart, Academy, all kinds of places. So good things to have. A solar blanket. One of those little first aid solar blankets, and they have a variety of them. You can get them for about $10, and it's like Mylar. It's silver on one side and maybe like another color on the other side, depending on who makes them or whatever. They may be silver on both sides. Keeps you warm. It also, you can make a little simple shelter on a day like today when it's raining. You can get out of the rain in case, and we're going to talk here a little bit about what happens when you get lost and the need for these. Take snack bars, whether it's Cliff Bar, Power Bars. I'm a big Cliff Bar fan, so Cliff Bar always starts, kind of gets to the top of the brain there. Kind, K-I-N-D. I was doing some promo stuff getting ready for this particular episode, and I said kind the first time, and I was like, people might misunderstand that. So K-I-N-D, it's a brand. I love the chocolate ones. Chocolate ones are good. Special K makes bars, so it's a lot of cool stuff. Take snacks, nuts. You've probably heard of GORP. It's an acronym for, I can't even remember what all it stands for, but it's like raisins, peanuts, things like that. And you mix it together and eat it, kind of like granola and stuff like that. So anyway, you need a fire starter. Whether it's matches or one of those little metal rocks that are, I keep calling it a metal rock, but it's basically a little aluminum thing with you scrape the aluminum shavings off one side and you turn off the other side, and you can spark with it and it will actually catch fire. Or matches. And if you take matches or a lighter or something like it, just make sure you put it in something that will stay dry. You want that dry container. You might even want to take, and this is really simple, and this is multi-purpose, and this is an excellent thing. You take those little bitty teeny jars of Vaseline. I mean, they're just like teeny tiny. Take about 4 or 5 cotton balls and just stick them down in there. Well, you've got cotton balls if you need them. You can take the ones that are actually touching the Vaseline and use them to cover cuts and stuff. But you can also, Vaseline is an excellent fire starter. So you got this thing saturated. Excellent stuff. You need a knife, and guys, we're not yelling. We're not screaming and yelling at folks if we get lost. So you always have your safety whistle with you. Some of them, if you have like a day pack, it's built into the actual little chest strap. And if not, you can find them everywhere. You can even find them in like the camping section and stuff like that at like Walmart. And I keep saying Walmart, but this is how easy it is to find this stuff, guys. And I know I sound so excited because I love being outside. I love being outdoors, and I love telling you and talk to you guys about this stuff because it's so fun. And I encourage you guys to get out of your mundane life, get out of, it's so hard in EMS, and especially this time of year. It's cold, and like a day like today, it's wet. You've worked those crazy hours. It's the holiday season. We finished up Thanksgiving. Christmas is here. New Year's is, next week, and it's just like, it's just so much. But take that day, and I've been telling you guys for the last several weeks, last month or so, across multiple episodes, find that time for yourself, whether it's going out, spend a couple hours in the woods, whether it's just, finding some me time. And I know I get excited, really get excited about this stuff. The other thing is, it's called Sunup and Sundown. It's an application for your phone. So if you do still have a little cell signal, you can kind of check and go, okay, it's getting late in the day. What time is the sun supposed to go down? It's GPS located, so it'll do your location where you're at, and it'll tell you when that sun is supposed to go down. And you can go, okay, I need to start heading back, or I need to start sheltering in place and things like that. So those are some kind of the minimal things. And you notice I didn't really say too much about first aid. And we're going to talk a little bit about first aid. Well, you know what? Let's just do that here. And that'll be our segue into our next section. First aid kit. Guys, I am terrible. My wife spent many, many years at being a trauma nurse in the ER. She was a paramedic and an EMT for several years, and she's the one that's always like, okay, where's the first aid kit? Where's the first aid kit? And I'm like, okay. So I don't know, maybe that's just me being me, or maybe that's poor planning, but some of the things that you do need at a minimum. And a lot of people get so crazy about their first aid kits. And if you're like new to hiking and stuff, and you see all these websites and they're like, oh, you need this and you need this, you really don't. Few little small bandages. You need some triple antibiotic ointment. You've got your Vaseline, which is also excellent for kind of covering wounds, keeping things out of them. You know, you might need, you know, just one sort of kind of like co-band or something like that. Something that doesn't take up a lot of room. You're going to have a knife, some scissors or something like that. That might be good so you can cut stuff. And I tell you guys, and this is kind of our segue into the next section. And that is some tips for whether it's an injury to yourself, or you're out and about, or maybe you're actually going out and looking for somebody. And I know you guys who do actually have specific wilderness training know these things, and this is just a good reminder. Maybe somebody who's never taken a Wilderness EMS class, these are just some things to think about. So it's not necessary to take your whole big kit and everything with you. And we love when we go into the house, we grab everything off the truck and we go in, and that's kind of what we do. But when you want to pack light. So these are some of the essential things that you just think about when you're going out and doing some kind of search and rescue. If this is not something you typically do, yeah, take those bandages, take maybe just one bag, one setup for IV, things like that, if you're going out and looking for somebody. But if you're already out there and you're doing things, just remember, clean any cuts with filtered water. We want to use clean water as possible. Cover those up with triple antibiotic ointment, or you can take your Vaseline that you use and kind of cover it up and kind of keep things out of it and wrap them up. Now, if they're just little scrapes and cuts, go about your day. You know, if you're on a multi-day hike, you know, just keep watch, no big deal. If it's something that may questionably need sutures, if there's any fractures, then we say that you need to rapidly extricate. Now, some of these tips actually came from the American Red Cross. They have a little thing, and I've put these links down here in the bottom. There's from the Forrest Service folks, from the federal government. Let's see, who else did I get these from? The folks who do Wilderness EMS, one of those organizations. There's a couple of different organizations out there. So I put a lot of that information down there, and you can kind of, and there's a lot of good information in those particular links. But yeah, clean those wounds. But again, if it's something that may be questionable, like, well, fractures are not questionable, but you know, big open wounds. And this is what I tell you guys. And you notice I didn't say a whole lot about a lot of bandages. Well, first off, most of you guys are going to have a belt, probably. If not, you're going to have paracord. Now, if you're using paracord, and this is my segue into tourniquet, if you're using a paracord, remember, you need to have that wrap at least 2 inches wide. So it needs to be, you can't just wrap it around one time. You need to make that wrap, and I keep hitting my mic, and I apologize, guys. You need to make that wrap at least about 2 inches wide. If you're using a standard belt that you would wear around your waist, unless it's like a little thin, like, and I hate to say girls belt, but most even women who hike wear a standard 1.5 to 2 inch belt, which is pretty wide, and that works pretty well. And you can use those for tourniquets, or you guys carry these things in your pockets and stuff like that. You can get those that are made and carry one of those with you. So tourniquets are always excellent, but to go back to the open wounds and things like that, clean clothing. Seriously, because if some of you guys are into ultra, and I am an ultralight backpacking, things like that, you want to take those clean clothes, use those shirts, things like that, and kind of cover those wounds, kind of pack them in those wounds, and that usually works pretty well. So it doesn't require you to carry just like tons and tons of 4x4s and ab pads. Now, if you want to carry one of those, like, and they sell them, they're not too heavy, they're not too expensive. Maybe one of the little quick clot things that's impregnated in one of those like trauma pads or something like that, that's fine too. But you have those, just think about those other resources that you guys have. There's an acronym they say look for DOTS: deformity, open wounds, tenderness, and swelling. So these are some of the things that we should be looking for when we're out there and we see folks. Whether we come up on somebody, we're specifically looking for somebody, and we've now found them, or maybe it's one of us or somebody in our, and you should never hike by yourself. And I didn't say that previously, but that is one of those safety tips. Always tell somebody where you're going, when you should be back, and hey, if you don't see me by this time, you need to be looking for me. But never go by yourself, especially way off out into the woods, because sometimes getting to help can be 30, 45 minutes, hours literally, and that's somebody who can actually go get the help, not the injured person. So something to remember. Something we talk about a lot when we talk about our fractures is RICE. You guys rest, immobilize, cold, and elevate. And you're going, well, how am I going to elevate and do cold and things like that? And we're trying to extricate this person in a little more rapid manner. Well, so there's a couple of different tricks. Now, immobilization, you get a lot. Some of the more common things are like arm fractures or leg fractures. People fall and things like that. We know that elbows are bent, knees are straight. When we mobilize those, guys, you can use belts, you can use your paracord, you can use sticks to splint things. As far as like immobilization. Now, cold is a little more difficult. Find those cold streams. Take a break and go, okay, let's put this ankle, or let's, let you sit down. Keep in mind, you do need to make sure that you don't let these folks get hypothermic by sitting in a cold stream or something like that. So you have to kind of be careful about that. But you can use cold running water. Don't submerge the whole body and things like that. And kind of use different methods like that. You might even take like a Camelback, and that's those water bladders. Fill it up with really cold water and just sort of kind of let them put it on their extremity and things like that. And you also have another water source, which is also good. So things like that. And then, take those periodic breaks. But again, if it's fractures and things like that, we need to start extricating in a little more rapid manner. The other thing is, so I currently live at about 130 feet of elevation. Here at the state park in Roan Mountain, Tennessee, it's about 3,400 feet. Carver's Gap, which is just right down the road here on the AT, we get into the Roan Highlands. It's about 5,500 feet. Well, you guys know from when we talk about acute mountain sickness that terrestrial elevation, somewhere around about 5,000 feet, is where we start seeing folks getting acute mountain sickness. So things like HAPE and HACE, typically at higher elevations, but remember, if you start seeing a patient who's complaining, or somebody who's with your party and you come up on them or whatever, they start complaining of headache, they said they've had trouble sleeping, they just feel tired, restless, things like that, they're starting to begin getting things like HAPE and HACE and acute mountain sickness. So look for those. And these are the folks that we need to come down from that elevation. The last thing that I'm going to talk to you guys about is if you get lost. It happens to all of us. Now, I'm sitting here wearing my Marine Corps hat that my mother-in-law got me for Christmas, so thank you, Carol. Awesome, love it. Yeah, I've had training. I've spent a lot of time in the woods hiking. Have I ever gotten lost? Yeah, probably I've been lost. But the thing about, and I say yeah, probably, because obviously I'm here, so I found my way back home, right? But the key thing is don't panic. And I know that's kind of easy for me to say. I'm sitting here in a known location. Somebody can drive by and pick me up and take me home. I know where I'm at. But don't panic. And that's the key thing. It's dark. This is absolutely the worst time, if you get lost, to start trying to figure out where you're at. Oh my gosh, I'm lost. What do I do? Stay where you're at. If you're on a trail, sleep on the trail or within 2 or 3 feet of the trail. Cross the trail, whatever. When the sun comes up, you look left, you look right, and go, okay, now we're going to stop. That's an acronym. Stop. Stop, think, observe, and plan. Look at your situation. Take out your map. Look for those key points. Okay, there's a mountain over there, there's a mountain over here, here's my map, where am I at? You've got your compass. Start orientating yourself. Make a plan. Make a plan. If it's cold, if it's raining, if it's snowing, seek shelter. Try to stay warm and dry. Make your plan. And don't just aimlessly, blindly start roaming around. Because that's what's going to get you in trouble, guys. So I told you guys at the beginning of this episode that the GT medic was not going to be with us this week. Yes, he is spending time with his family. So Merry Christmas to you there, GT medic, wherever you are. But I've got some exciting news for you guys. Marty D is going to come hang out with us. He's going to be my co-host for, well, I don't know how long. We're going to try to make this work and make it interesting to you guys. I'm always looking for ways to make it interesting for you guys and make it beneficial and relevant. So Marty D is going to come hang out with us. He is not currently practicing in EMS, done a lot of research, and he's going to help us look at it from EMS as a whole from an outsider's view. So start looking for those episodes with Marty D. And I think it's going to be fun and excellent. Well, guys, that's all the time that I have for this week. So don't forget to subscribe to us on our YouTube channel. Like and share us on Facebook and Twitter. You can even go to our website at mediclifetv.com to get the latest information and updates. And if you guys want to be a well-informed lifer, don't forget to get on our lifers list, and you can do this by going to mediclifetv.com and looking on that contact page. It'll be right there in the top right of the screen for you. Guys, Merry Christmas from my family to your family. Happy Hanukkah, happy holidays. Stay safe out there in those travels. Stay safe out there on the streets. Until next time, this has been Medic Life, episode 18. My name is John Newton. Y'all stay safe.